What is up, y'all? It is our Wednesday Technique Day. We are looking at a Bob Bowman video. Judging from the title, it looks like he's talking about training 400 IMers. You know, we got Phelps, Leon, Summer, obviously all great 200 IMers, but we all know that Bowman has a great capacity for distance or higher endurance. Having your athlete, I guess, out endurance everybody else, so that's why I say 4 IM. But yeah, we're just gonna jump in, see what they talk about, just technique stuff. You know, we got the trusty Dax Hill whiteboard. If there's some scheduling things, we'll make sure that we cover them. And then, you know, I think, like I said before, I'm definitely an Eddie Reese purist. Let me make sure I switch this over to my actual account so we don't get interrupted.
Our basic program is not.
All right, and you know we'll talk about those differences between Eddie and Bob, and let's jump into this joint.
Sessions per week. Okay, so we go 3 mornings. I'm going to make this simplistic, but yeah, okay, I'll get into my soapbox in a minute. We would call this power training. Resistance training is a much better way to think about it. And here I am propagating something that I can't stand. Somebody said, what would be the one thing you could do that would make swimming better? And I was like, never use this word again. Particularly if you coach anybody that's not a post-grad or in college. You do not do power training in club swimming. It doesn't happen. You're just trying to give them something they're going to get in college, so by the time they get to us, they've already had it and they don't get better. Give them what they need to have.
So you want us to make our jobs and our effective and be less effective so you get to be effective. Why don't you just be a better coach? Like that, right? We're already off. Okay. You know what they say, first impressions, and you know, believe when somebody says who they are to you the first time. And I've never met Bob, never had a conversation with Bob. I've heard some insider trading things about. We don't even talk about that. It's not my place. But that rubbed me the wrong way, right there. You don't do this because you're making my job harder. Because you can't be the great coach if somebody else takes something from you. That's like Michael Jordan say, hey, don't teach people to guard the right hand because then now I can't go right anymore. Like you drop 50 with your left hand like your name's Larry Bird. Y'all don't know this. Larry Bird once had a game where he was talking shit and he said, I'm saving my right hand. I think it was for Magic. It was a game against Magic, I think. And he's playing the Hawks. Dominique Wilkins, it's a great scorer, uber athlete. So it's not like there's some joke, right? He said, I'm gonna drop 40 with my left hand. And he scored 40 points. He's a righty. Scored 40 points with his left hand the entire game. Okay, Bob.
That age, another topic. But anyway, power training, okay. Or aerobic. This is going to be what we call straight up threshold training, the John Urbanchek colors. You know what it is. We actually do an AM, it's a late AM here, and this will be active rest, and this is long course meters. These are short. Wednesday, we're doing training at max VO2. We're coming back Thursday with another, it's threshold / aerobic in the long course. Friday afternoon is a mix. It can be technical work, but a lot of times it's a big kicking emphasis. Okay? Saturdays.
I want to make sure I write all this down. So we got power, See, and this is something else I don't like about swimming, is they would, if your athlete came in with power and all this stuff, they call you NBA ready. Like Amari Stoudemire, you hear people, you don't know who Amari Stoudemire is. He was like 6'10", 245 in high school, which is the size of an NBA player. Most people do not get, and he was like solid muscle. So that usually requires a college system. He went straight to the league out of high school. Nickname was Stat, standing tall and talented. But it's just like, if you have that athlete, then train them as if they're in his case. He said like a pro, start training them like a pro now. Like, that comment rubbed me the wrong way, that's for sure. So, colors. I think he said aerobic on Wednesday morning.
Or something like that. Kind of depends on who you are. Now, we have our kind of energy systems in place, right? So you have this template, and every week is like this for the most part. You know? In the early season, I don't do the power right away. I try to avoid it as long as I can, and then when I can't wait anymore, I do something. Mainly because they think they need to have it, not because I think they need to have it, right? But we're doing it. And this is working with the buckets. It's shoots, which I like. It's actually quite a bit of underwater kicking, which I love. There's a little bit of pulling in there. There's definitely speed work in there. It's a kind of a mix of things. So you've got that going Monday and Friday. How do we decide what stroke they do on those? It's usually something they're trying to develop. Carson does breaststroke here and here exclusively because he loves the way his stroke is after when he does the resistance on breast. It really helps his stroke get together. And by kind of building that up, it's gotten much, much better. There is this, there's definitely some truth to the fact that if you want to teach somebody a skill, adding some resistance to it makes them feel it better. I had this girl, Sierra Runge, right? This giant girl. She was like 6'5", big girl. She had tiny little feet and hands. It's crazy. She just had a baby, but anyway, she has very small feet and hands. And she was a terrible kicker, but when you come into my group, you're kicking, right? And I was like, we're gonna make her a kicker. I put her in that lane, and we did kicking and kicking and kicking, and I yelled, and I was nice, and I did all the things I could do to make her a kicker. She didn't get one bit better. Not at all. It's a lot of time spent on this for no reward, none. And then we were doing some things where, during this session, I had her kick with socks, and I was like, wow, she's probably going to drown. I better watch her. She was better than anybody with socks because her feet actually held water. So the resistance was helping her learn how to kick it. So that's something you can do.
I'm gonna go ahead and say this. I have an IG post that it's Tuesday right now and I'm recording this. I have an IG post I just posted about doing the research to be the best, right? So this is what I'm talking about, is that right there, the kicking thing he just said. So now he knows, okay, maybe when these people who have small hands and small feet, this is what they need. So now he tests it. Everybody who comes in his program who is of this certain talent level, who's small and small feet, who sucks at kicking for X amount of years, we put them in kick socks on, they're gonna, all of a sudden it's unlocked and now their kicking is elite. Okay, well, is that a 1 year thing? Is it only for, do they have to suck for 2 years? They have to suck for 1 year? Check. Do they have to, can we do it in a month? Check. Okay, now, does it work for all the different varieties of athletes who have short legs, small feet, long legs, small feet, short torso, small feet? And then now can I scale this up? Does it translate to all my different talent of athlete? Does it translate to my elite kickers? When we put them through this, like maybe they're a 10 out of 10, but then when we put them on the power, we see that, however you want to quantify it and label it, that they're actually a 1 out of 10. So if we can move them in this power from a 1 out of 10, does that mean that, or from a 1 out of 10 to let's say a 7 out of 10, does that mean their 10 out of 10 was actually 10 out of 10? No, they were just that good. They were just that talented. Right now they're at a 17 out of 40 or something, right? Where we now see how the range of how good they can actually be. And now we test that. We go back to shorthand or short feet Sierra, and we run our way back up, see if it changes, see what the feedback gives us along the way. And we go back, check it with short feet Sierra, and move it up. So, yeah. And honestly, if I have to say, I think the rumor on Bob is that he's like great with uber talented athletes. Like, you give him that, he's not losing. He's going to make these people into world record holders. And I would guess that not doing what I just described is why some of his lesser athletes get left in the dust. With the elite athletes, it works because that's the only people he's tried it on, or, he has these random successes like he just said with Sierra. Whereas if you actually push it through the method, I bet you'll find out that, okay, this data point for this sucky swimmer, they need this variable exposure more to actually make their equation work. It's just like, not that I was slow or anything, but people look at me as like one of the swimmers that he made, right? I was 138 out of high school. I wasn't some like super elite 200 freestyler, even though 138 back then was probably like 135 today. And now I'm an NCAA champion, right? But that doesn't work if A doesn't understand how to develop like this tier of athlete. And I've interviewed Eddie and talked to him about things, and that's how he approaches the game. He's like trying to figure out that puzzle I just said. So, let's get back to it.
This is something you're trying to develop. So, but it's one stroke and it's all the time. Here's another thing that I think coaches are very reticent to embrace. Repetition.
I wanted to say this too. Power. His philosophy on powerful is terrible. I know this from playing athletic and explosive sports. What he just said is terrible advice. And you'd be like, oh, he's Bob, he's coach this. No. And I know this too from training under Eddie, is I was at my strongest early in the season. And this tracks with other sports. You are in season. So let's just say we have the preseason, right? You have your first training cycle. I don't know what you would call it. Beginning season. Let's do this in a different color. And I'm telling you, this is what I'm about to write up here. When I start writing about the power part, this is how other sports do things too, like the more explosive sports, which is what we always want in swimming. But then we sit here and do dumb shit like what he just said. Okay, so we got the preseason, we got begin season. We got mid-season. This would be like October. Christmas training. Just draw a present. And then we got rest taper season. Okay. Your season in other sports looks like this. And this is, let's just say, this is peak power. This is like maintenance. Once you go below this line. Okay, so what I learned under Eddie, like I said, this is going to track. Oh wow, that was awful. I think it might just be a little sun. Yeah, it is. It is the sun. I just don't think this thing likes red. Do I have another marker somewhere that's dark colored? I do not. Did that help at all? No. Here we go. Okay, let's redraw this. Okay, so you have power. Man, that was pretty bad too. Okay, and then we have maintenance. Right, so once you go under this line, you're supposed to be doing maintenance. Up here, above that line, kind of in between, you kind of get in the tweener area, but above that line is when you should be doing power work for sure. So in the beginning of the season, right, you should be up here, right, doing power work. Right now, as your body breaks down, because you're able to recover, right? You're not doing mornings, practices aren't that hard. You should be trying to get stronger. Obviously, not turn your body into a boulder where you're going to lose some buoyancy and not have long, lean muscles, which is what we want in swimming. But this is where our strength gains are going to come. Okay. Now, as your body breaks down, if you keep lifting for power, you're going to break down too fast and then you end up in a hole and then you can't taper your way out because you're lifting too heavy, right? With a failing body. That's very important. So now at a certain point, we get into maintenance. Well, I kind of don't like the way I just did that. Let's draw this like this. Right now at a certain, there we go. Certain point, you start breaking down too fast, and now we're in maintenance work. Now, if you're lifting too heavy, this is going to keep going down too much. Right? We don't want that because when we taper, that means, we might get our strength back, but we're going to lose a lot of conditioning. So you're trying to, I guess, manage around this like range right here. Okay, we want to stay somewhere in here where we're maintaining our strength. So you're probably just dropping down a few points. Now, the error with this that I learned is under Eddie's program is I would keep lifting here as my body broke down because everybody's competitive, and this is, one of the reasons why we also didn't win. There's a lot. Our competitiveness was a detriment for sure at UT. Like within athlete competitiveness. But I could feel that Eddie would have to save me at some random bullshit meet. Like I remember I would never break 140 in the 200 free. And the first time it happened was at Georgia, my junior year. So 2 weeks I basically did nothing. And this happened. Right, I shot up, recovered, got my power back, didn't lose any conditioning. And over 2 weeks, I went from 140.3 to 133.3. Right? So we want to do more maintenance so we didn't got to do anything dramatic like that, which then may throw off my whole season because now I'm going too fast. But it also may be a data point. We talked about how you need to be testing these things. That also may be a data point that says, hey, I'm a 130, 200 freestyler because in 2 weeks I recovered this much. Keep going, give him actually what he needs, but whatever. So anyway, you're trying to maintain strength. You got your mid-season meet, so you're gonna come back up. For us, that was the Texas Invite. Boom. You're trying to land somewhere in there. Right? Because we don't want to go too high to where we lose our ability to get back into our hole and then have something to taper out of. Christmas training comes down. Maybe for like a week you go back to power lifts and being explosive because you had Christmas or you go home, right? Your body recovers because you're being a bum. So then now we got to come back down here. Now we're doing maintenance again. And then we want to maintain this as you come up out of it. You get your power back. Boom. You're ready for your big meet. Okay? So the times you're not working very hard are the times that you need to be doing power. And this is how elite sports work. Like most of their heavy strength, especially basketball, where they're like lifting after games, it's so they can get a little bit of a strength boost in the same recovery time lapse from their basketball game, their body recovering. And that's why, like, I know a player like LeBron, he gets heavier as the season gets long because I think within game, he's actually building muscle. So when he actually leaves the game, he's recovering. So you can that's what goes on in those sports, and all their heavy lifting is in their preseason. And they coast all that. All their endurance training is in the preseason, right? All their conditioning, and then they coast. Okay? Because this is when the body can recover. So it doesn't make sense to not take advantage of this. You can't do it anywhere else because the body's broken down. It won't be able to recover. You're just digging yourself a hole. So I can say confidently as an athlete who played more explosive sports, what I've learned from Eddie and being a part of the failure of what doesn't work within Eddie's program, this is wrong. And I believe that wholeheartedly.
Highest form of learning. That's Aristotle, not me. But I wholeheartedly agree. Do things repeatedly. You are not there to keep them, perfectly excited every minute of every practice. You're there to teach them how to do things. My big proclivity is to do freestyle on Monday afternoons in the threshold work, but I also do a backstroke. Once in a blue moon, I do some with butterfly and breast. It's actually easier to do with breast than fly. Like 10 400s fly, so, what do you do? A threshold set for fly would be something like this. You go 3 sets of 10 100s and maybe take 30 seconds in between if you like. And I'm going to say it's long course. I'm pretending it's long course. You would go 120 and it's all free. You go 125, it's one free, one fly. And then you go 130, all 10 fly at red pace, right? Because it's going to be red pace, so they're doing that in the heart rate.
All right, I like that a lot. There's one thing I learned about UT. So I'm a self-taught butterflyer at UT. I was not recruited as a flyer, although I could race it. But when I learned how to train it, my senior year, I would go do training butterfly sets with Trip Cooper and their fly group. And one thing I noticed is that, at least for me, granted I wasn't there all the time, so it could be different, but all fly training was done in ladders. So it was never like 10 100s 3 times through. It was like, you're gonna go 10, you're gonna go an easy 50, and then maybe something fast. You're gonna go 6, you're gonna go 2 on the next round, you're gonna go 1 on the final round, and that one needs to be all out. Or I need you, and on all the other ones, I need you to be within a certain range descending until you get to that last one. Then we're gonna do it again, and the next round needs to be faster across the board, but done the same descending manner. So something I've noticed, fly sets should be done with some type of decreasing number of repetitions and increasing intensity.
That would be a threshold set for fly. And you could do that a couple times a season. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Or you can sneak it in other sets. I kind of sneak it in. That's something you can do, but mainly you're going to do this endurance work in free. You can do it at back. Back works great. My best backstrokers go on the freestyle intervals and just do the same set. Got that from Schubert, what he did with Lenny. So I started doing it, and it works. Okay, here we're going active rest, so we're going 50-50 anaerobic aerobic. So
I want to say everybody did everything on the freestyle intervals. Our freestyle interval was 110. Distance swimmers, it was a minute. But backstrokers did 110. Butterflyers did 110. I want to say breaststrokers did, because our breast, at that level, your breaststrokers are very good swimmers. And you get to breathe every stroke, which I think is a big part of it. So you're not holding your breath and jacking up your lactate levels like you would be doing in freestyle. Backstroke, obviously, your levels are going to stay pretty low. Butterfly, you're going to have some jacking up of those levels also. But at the worst, I want to say they did 115.
on something at a speed and something easy, and most of the rest is easy, okay? My big proclivity this season, is to do half back and half breast. So the first half of the set is back, second half of the set is breast. Wow, how did we come up with that? I had to think a long time, about 10 seconds. Well, we do back and then breast. All right? So they're getting back and breast. They're getting free. They're getting their weak stroke here, or something they want to work on. Maybe it's their third stroke. This is a mix, and it's usually a recovery, because these are tough sessions, right? And they're doing the weights here. You wanted to know. After swimming. No. Yeah, always after swimming. I don't want weights to affect my swimming. I coach the swimming team, not the weightlifting team. So.
This is where I'm going to disagree again. And I talk about this in my Goldilocks Zone course. God, I wish I could leave this up here. Screenshot that. Weights is not about, it is about getting stronger, and this is why I think the power thing is so important, but it's about training muscle fibers. And this is why Eddie is the best coach when it comes to double tapering, triple tapering, whatever it is. One, our load is just better than everybody else's. Pause. But it's about muscle fiber training, right? Let's just say this muscle fiber, we have spindle fibers, right? Let's just say that's one muscle fiber, right? And there's like little sphere things, right? In the middle when you see it sliced open in like a drawing, right? So your muscle fibers are recruited from the center outwards, right? So these are your strongest fibers. Here's your next strongest ones. And you'll notice that the area is kind of bigger. Actually, I think I just did this backwards. No, I did it right. And there's your next strongest ones. You go a little bigger. Y'all are getting some insider trading because this is in my course. Right, and then you have a ton of weak ones. Right? So what we're doing is we're trying to access these ones. So let's just say black, I can lift 20 pounds. Let's just say this is my deadlift, right? So my legs are strong enough to move 400, 6 reps, right? And let's just say once I start going between 6 to 12, let's color that blue. No, it's red. Red doesn't show up very well though. Hopefully it'll show up well right here for us. This crashes to like 150. Okay. And then blue, right? And then green. Okay, that's 19 to 24. Okay? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to access these at the bottom. Okay? I don't want to be in practice training only this. Because once these give out, then we start seeing crashes. Okay? And look, obviously it works, but I think this is another issue where we have what do the rest need, not just your most talented athletes. And in Eddie's system, oh, sorry about that, guys. I forgot about the mic. We need to be, over the course of the season, and I guess you kind of need to think about the graph. I wish I didn't have to erase it now, is we need to move these values up. All right, so so let's just say I can do this for 10 strokes. Let's just say the strokes are real, right? Take this also, not only just my lift reps, but your amount of strokes you can take. Okay, so between 19 and 24 strokes, I can only move 1 pound of water. That's not good. All right, but I can't train these unless I'm able to wear out the black to where it starts having to recruiting more red fibers. So let's just say at some point there's 1 black muscle fiber left, my most explosive, and then I have to use 10 of these. And let's just say it's 0.5, I have 3 of these left, and now I gotta go into 60 of these. And then it's 0.1 left, 1 left, 5 left, and I gotta go into 300 of these. Now, I can go to practice and train the green. I didn't like that. Okay, so now when I'm doing all these sets, I'm in conditioning these muscle fibers to go what he just said, right? 10 on 110, 6, right? Increasing my effort. 4, 1. I guess it would be 3, 1 would be a much, or 2, 1. Right? So, right, there's our max effort. So I'm teaching my body how to train these to go the times I need. All right, so now when I get to these big meets, one, I've taught myself how to access this. So maybe I'm only doing, at my taper meet, I'm either going 6 at 200, which means I'm not working hard enough to wear these out, so they're gonna stay fresh. I'm going too much, giving out too much inside trading, but anyway, I'm Eddie Reed's purist, and I think that this is better than just getting stronger. Because at the end of the day, the strength has to be trained to last. And if you don't have that, you don't have anything. And I think that's why Eddie is the GOAT, because he's able to help more athletes because he's giving more athletes the things they need that might make them a difference maker. What if one of your kids has a ton of these weak fibers? Endurance athletes. right? What if they're just a lot less talented where they can only do 1 rep, rep 2 through 5, rep 6 through 10, right? You got to give them what they need. And I think that this, and like I said, Eddie, he doesn't seem, I don't even know what it would look like, what the person who does this amount of work looks like. But I think when you look at it, he just knows things. But I know from my conversations with him, or I guess one interview, the rest of it I kind of figured out on my own, is that he's this guy, right? He knows how to make sure everybody gets what they need. And this is like the best size that fits all. And then he just changes the amount of weight you're lifting or your reps, right, when you get there in the weight room. Yes, Eddie was one of those coaches who was the head of the how we lifted and what we did in the water.
Sacrifice. It's the weights. The coach knows that. He's very good about it. If I just had 50 freestyles, they might lift and not swim before, but I don't. Particularly this group is all 400 people and 200 people. But so you see, this is going to be recovery, and it's going to be something that our kids love. Go at your own pace. Which, go at your own pace. They call it go up, but it's really gay up, and nobody can say it. But anyway, go at your own pace. But it's 6K, go at your own pace. It's a series of sets, and they go straight through it. Sometimes it's 7, sometimes it's 5. Kind of depends on where we are. At the end is 3. But it's a continuous thing, and it's all skill-based, and it changes. And this is almost always doing all the strokes. So they'll get that in there. Just kind of a low-level aerobic swimming. When I say low-level aerobic swimming, they'll do this 6K in for sure an hour and 10 minutes. They'll move. I mean, we move. We'll do max VO2 or quality work in the afternoon, and this is usually their best stroke. So this is where the butterflyers are going to get their thing, right? The backstrokers or breaststrokers, they might get a double dose. That's okay. Yep. Work here, okay? And this is normally where my favorite thing in the world shows up that I got from Murray Stevens. It's called free IM. Free IM is free back breath. Next thing, the essentials of coaching. You must fall in love with kicking. You must fall out of love with social kicking. That's not kicking. That's talking. Kicking is when people are breathing so hard they cannot speak. That is kicking. Mitochondrial development. Dr. Picard just told me when he was on the podcast. Okay. Right? You're out of breath. We kick, every one of these sessions is going to have kicking in it, a lot of it. Probably a minimum of 1,000 yards, probably 1,500, every one of these sessions. Okay? But on this day, it's going to have a major, it might be 3K worth of kicking. Might be 1,000 for time, it might be 2,000 for time. It might be 2,100's best average. It might be 1050s on a minute, your best average, or 2 minutes, your best average. We vary, right? And we keep track of the results. And we build it up over time, build it up over time, build it up over time. Probably the best way that we got Michael's breaststroke better was this day, because he would do breaststroke. And I'd give him 1,000 breaststroke kick for time. And he would work it, and in a period of 1,000 with no breaks, you start figuring out how to hold water on your feet. That's why you do that stuff. It's not for aerobic conditioning. There's 10 better ways to that. It's to learn how to do things. Muscular endurance and muscle memory. Right? And do it enough that you can experiment with it. That's what these are. I think, super important for us. And then we come back with the quality. And this is probably, for IMers, it might be freestyle again to end the week. It just depends on what they've been doing, right? If they
like I said, we do this live, and I didn't want to just leave y'all hanging. I'm not about to do it again. The organicness is gone. But basically, the closing statement, Mini Mike was off. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Thanks for hanging out. I greatly appreciate it. Hit that notification bell, like, subscribe. Greatly appreciate it. Helps us grow the channel. We're on the road to 1,000. I want to, I have a goal of hitting 1,000 by the summer. So let's just say May 1st, 1,000. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I think, you got some insider trading, definitely a lot of stuff that's And my most expensive, it's a one-time purchase, the Goldilocks Zone, where we talk about kind of Eddie Reese's philosophy, blending it with David Marsh's sprint philosophy, and then combining the two with how to train it to maximize your athlete development. He does a lot of, I guess I'm giving you all the closing now. He does a lot of things that I agree with. You know, Eddie has his a little different. I really like the late AM mornings for your singles. That's gangster. Shout out to Bob for that. That's awesome. That is awesome. Get the whole afternoon. Hit on these, where is it? Hit on these honey bunnies, you know what I'm saying? Man, I would have not been, oh God, I'd have been fresh, not exhausted to go flirt with these girls, and that would have been nice. So shout out to Bob right there, dog. That's super player of him. I'm sure that's not the intended reason, but that would have been nice when I was in school. That would have been so nice. But yeah, guys, hit that noti bell, like, subscribe. The road to 1,000. Thanks for hanging out. Peace.